progressive taxation program in the country.
Nigeria's tax system has been confronted with many issues that affected collection and payment.
Now, this progressive taxation is among some of the reforms being proposed to help stabilize the sector.
The idea behind this system is to ease the tax burden and make it more equitable in such a way that those with ability pay higher taxes.
Indeed, Demola, and this implies that the wealthy will contribute more to the country's poor. Good move for the government, I think.
It is. And in June this year, a Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee recommended this model of taxation to transform Nigeria's business environment and economic climate.
And the proposed model of taxation recommends 0% taxes for the poor, while 10% taxes for the rich.
Well, we will take a look at this progressive taxation, which is expected to be a key part of the current reform in the country's tax sector. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. I am Ademola Adeoye. Let me also welcome Jumai after... is it a long break or a short break now?
It was quite long, actually.
Okay, you look so refreshed. You're welcome back.
Alhamdulillah, I'm much better now. And I'm Jumai Yusuf. Also, welcome you to the program. We are reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. And our colleague Olajide Bello is standing with the morning news. Thereafter, we'll bring you the newspaper review. But for now, Olajide, you can take it from here.
Good to have you back, Jumai. Good morning, Ademola. Good morning, Nigeria. And here is the morning news. 48 people have been confirmed dead, with more than 50 cars burnt alive in an explosion involving a petroleum tanker loaded with PMS after colliding with a trailer conveying travelers and cattle from Wodil in Kano State and route in Niger to Lagos State. The explosion, which occurred along the Paigay, 2 kilometers from Dende community in Agay local government area of Niger State, also had 2 other vehicles, a crane truck and a pickup van, caught up in the incident. Niger State Emergency Management Agency's Rapid Response Team, which confirmed the incident, is conducting search and response operation. Small bodies are still trapped inside the trucks. The report also indicates that the 48 people have already been buried. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetukun, has expressed the force's determination to earn memories of the officers murdered by the proscribed Islamic movement in Nigeria, popularly known as Shiites, in the Federal Capital Territory recently. The IGP gave this assurance in a condolence message to their families through the Commissioner of Police, FCT, Benneth Igwe.
My heart is pained because it is unprovoked attack. That's what is paining all of us. Last year they did the same thing, and they killed the policeman in a beggar roundabout, collected his rifle. This time around, they have killed ASP Innocent and Alex, Inspector Alex, and collected their rifle too. So they have declared war on police. So that's why we say we cannot fold our hands and allow them to continue like that.
The Nigerian Army has described as false reports on some social media platforms alleging mass resignation of soldiers over corruption and low morale. Statement by Director Army Public Relations, Major General Onyema Nwachukwu, notes that the said publication is not only misleading but also a deliberate attempt to cause disaffection and acrimony with the ranks of the Army. The Nigerian Army, like most militaries of the world over, is voluntary and not conscriptive, noting that personnel of the organization are free and at liberty to disengage at will. Consignments of cocaine and pharmaceutical opioids concealed in ladies' sanitary pads and hair treatment cream containers heading to the United Kingdom, Ireland and Cyprus have been intercepted by the operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, 3 courier firms in Lagos. A statement by Director Media Advocacy and Daily Headquarters Abuja, Femi Babafemi, states that in one of the logistics companies, not less than 30 parcels of cocaine weighing 1.1 kilogram were concealed in hair cream containers were recovered by NDLA officers at the Directorate of Operations and General Investigations during examination of cargoes going to Ireland, and the consignment of 24 parcels of cocaine weighing 862 grams, also hidden in hair cream containers meant for delivery in UK, was equally intercepted at the same company. In the same vein, a total of 525 pills of tramadol, 225 milligram, and ecstasy concealed in ladies' sanitary pads going to Cyprus was seized at another courier firm in Lagos. The Senate Ad hoc Committee investigating alleged sabotage in the petroleum industry has deferred the investigation to enable wider consultation with stakeholders. In a statement, Chairman of the Ad hoc Committee and Senate Leader Senator Okoyemi Bamidele explains that input and participation of stakeholders will add value to the outcome of the exercise. Senator Bamidele says the postponement of the investigation was taken in the best interest of the nation, noting that prevailing realities in the country demand urgent intervention of all stakeholders. The other committee was inaugurated on the 22nd of July 2024 to identify and hold accountable those responsible for criminal acts in the petroleum industry towards finding lasting solutions to the challenges confronting the sector of the economy. And that's the news for now. Good morning, Nigeria. Continue shortly with Jimai and Ademola after the break.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, with undying demand. We make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Each ethnicity is unique, we have more than destination.
We are Nigeria, strengthening unity. We know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
To prevent diarrhea and other diseases, especially in children, wash your hands with soap under running water, particularly after using the toilet. After cleaning your baby's bum, before preparing your baby's food, and before and after feeding your baby. If your child has diarrhea, give zinc tablets once a day, plus ORS every 4 hours, or frequently in small sips from a cup, so that your child will replenish lost nutrients and regain strength. Also, visit the nearest health facility to get treatment for diarrhea. This message is from the ANRIN Project, Federal Ministry of Health.
In a world hungry for goodness, with a splash of golden Terra oil, a mom can transform a frown into a smile. Make a lunch hour a happy hour. Change no thanks into yes please. Provide care when our nearest and dearest needs it most. And resolve family feuds without blowing a whistle. Providing tasty, nourishing family meals is all that matters. The world needs moms, because where there are moms, there is hope, happiness, and love. Golden Terra Oil, or pure love.
You have to meet my best friend. She's the sweetest. Hey, check out my hair.
Which one? The one on your head or the one in the sink? Relax. Next time, just use the Mega Growth Anti-Damage Relaxer. It's infused with wonder oils and conditioning proteins so you can retouch without breakage. Now your hair looks great.
Thank you.
Retouch without breakage with Mega Growth Anti-Damage No-Lie Cream Relaxer.
We are live in the open market for Epic 10X Challenge.
My people, today now.
Today, I will show you how the power of new Epic 10X gives your toilet a better cleaning than bleach.
Than bleach?
Yes, so.
Impossible.
Toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Epic is thicker and sticks better,
which gives 10X better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs.
Oh, wow. You can now see that Epic is better than bleach.
TerraCube is available in beef, chicken, jollof and shrimp flavors at attractive prices of 50, 100, 200 and 500 naira.
TerraCube. Unwrap joy. Unleash taste.
Imagine a world where your potential isn't limited by your bank account, where your financial dreams can become reality. That world is here with the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation scheme, Credico. Credico is one of President Tinubu's initiatives designed to put the power of consumer credit in the hands of working Nigerians. Here to help you achieve your goals, whether it's providing for your family or expanding your home or business. Visit www.credico.ng today for details. This is the renewed hope.
A new edition of TV Guide is out.
This time, we got up close and personal with the transformational legislator, the Deputy President of the Senate, distinguished Senator Barrow Jibrin.
It created a difference in terms of representation through interventions that have brought an unprecedented infrastructural development to my area.
This edition is a compendium of mind-blowing stories for your reading pleasure, ranging from technology, entertainment, economy, media, politics, family, and lots more.
It is indeed a park of excitement as we take you through every aspect of life. Pick up your copy and get abreast with issues and trending features within our space.
TV Guide, very incisive, very educative and compelling. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Thanks for staying with us. This is still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Next is newspaper review.
Our newspaper reviewer Chukudi Okolo Baja is in the studio. Good morning, Chukudi. It's so good to see you again.
I think I should welcome you really to the program again. Jumai, you know you're a sight for sore eyes. Where did you go? I'm so happy to see you again.
Thank you.
Morning. Demo, how are you doing?
Great.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
It's a bright Monday morning.
It is a bright Monday morning. I thought it was going to rain this morning, actually.
It's been raining, the past few days.
Yeah,
so.
Let's quickly go to the papers, Mr. Chukudi. We begin with the Blueprint newspaper. And above the masthead, we have banditry. 2G reduces levy on Zamfara community from 50 million naira to 30 million naira. Find the details on page 6. Just below the masthead, Blueprint staff member John Obad laid to rest in Erusu, Akoko. Details on page 7. AFCON offbeat, Super Eagles land in Rwanda. Details on page 32. And NAFDAC probes Pastor Jeremiah's miracle water and soap. You find all the details on page 8. Europe-bound woman conceals cocaine, opioid, and sanitary pads. With rider, NDLEA destroys 100,000 kilograms of cannabis in Ekiti. Arrest 3 others in Kaduna, Jigawa. At the bottom plate of the Blueprint newspaper, traditional rulers storm Badagry markets to force down food prices. Details on page 23. FBN Holding sells 100% stake in FBN Quest Merchant Bank. Details on page 22. Report of soldiers' mass resignation over corruption fake. That's coming from the Nigerian army. And 50 in the headlines in the Blueprint newspaper, 51 killed in Niger, Lagos tanker inferno. 48 get mass burial. With riders, 50 cows perish. And the governor of Niger State, Bago, expresses shock, directs Niger State SEMA's immediate intervention. And the picture story you see there, Minister of the FCT, Barrister Ezenwan Wiki, signing a memorandum of understanding with President Chinese Civil Engineering and Construction Company for the lighting of Abuja in Beijing, China on Saturday at the FOCAC. And moving on, we have This Nigeria. At the side piece of This Nigeria, economic sabotage. Senate proposes oil probe over wider consultation. Page 4. Zamfara, Kaduna, Katsina lead in ransom payment to kidnappers. That's a report. And the SBM intelligence says over 1 billion naira paid in 1 year. More than 7,000 abducted nationwide within the same period. NDLA intercepts Euro-bound cocaine opioids in Lagos. And fuel crisis. Probe NNPC reverse price. Serap urges Tinubu to check critical situation. It could lead to malnutrition. Experts warn. Mr. Demo.
Okay, and I have the leadership newspaper, and above the nameplate, we have the tanker explosion kills 48 persons, 50 cows in Niger State. Details on page 17. And pump price. Probe NNPCL now. Serap tells Tinubu. Details of that story can be found on page 21. And below the nameplate, we have Naira devaluation, subsidy removal, cripple manufacturers. Details of that story can be found on page 7. And the major headline, it's Sambo Dambazao, others join Northern Democrats. Details also on page 7. And poverty boosting organ trafficking in Nigeria. Poverty, ignorance, boosting organ trafficking in Nigeria. Then we have all the details, stated there. Then we have Article 1 against VAT increase. Details on page 22. Sun sets mother ablaze in Delta. Details on page 20. NAFDAC investigates Pastor Jeremiah's miracle water soap. On page 8. Chooks.
NAFDAC investigates Pastor Jeremiah's miracle soap. You know, I think it's something that is okay, but if it's a spiritual matter, then maybe NAFDAC will have to call in a pastor or an imam to help them to investigate.
No, it's because he said that the miracle water and soap is registered.
Registered?
Yes.
Yes.
With NAFDAC. That's why NAFDAC joined the conversation.
So fine.
Yeah.
NAFDAC could have registered it. If it is registered, they could have registered it because it met the specifications for
they say it is
normal
not
soap.
It is not registered.
So the one that is an issue is the spirituality you're bringing into the soap. Yeah. You understand?
I think both.
What I have to keep on telling Nigerians, the other time I said, these days, they are blessing our saints. Chukudi comes into the church and they are binding and casting out the demons in me, not caring whether I am the first demon to myself. There's a book called, that asks you to look in the mirror and see your first enemy in the world. Actually, Mason also talks about that. Yes. Many of the things that happen to us in life, three quarters of them are caused by us.
Yes.
Do you understand? So it is the re-education of Nigerians I'm interested in. Please, God works miracles for those of us who are good Muslims and good Christians who believe. I'm not disputing that at all.
And traditionalists as well.
Okay, I don't know about...
Yes, also.
Okay,
they believe in something.
If you're sure. Yeah. Very good. But what I don't want Nigerians to have happen to them is this, to be beguiled and misled all in the name of God. BBC did a documentary concerning some African, religiosity and religious inclination and called it In the Name of God. You understand? So let us be careful. Nobody is dismissing anybody's claims, but let us not be too gullible about some of these things. It's a sad story that Tunji is reducing. What are we talking about? It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
A clarion call to government. When people can no longer feel safe under the government, it is not good news. So the thing is, let us keep on doing whatever we're doing to curtail these things. Yes, I saw a social media post. 200 million to somebody, 200 million to this person. And I saw it signed purportedly by a government official. Reports like this would tend to lend credence to such, I couldn't believe it.
The atrocity. The audacity.
These are brothers and sisters in one corner of this country. It is not right. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. We are managing reasonable security here. What about the people in the hinterland? In those terrorism-prone areas? Let us try to up our game. And look at this other one. Zamfara, Kaduna, Katsina leading ransom payment to kidnappers.
Yes.
That's from SBM Intelligence. Which says over 1 billion naira was paid in 1 year. Can you believe that? SBM Intelligence is an African-focused market security intel gathering and strategic consulting firm. That seems to suggest that they are credible.
More than 7,000 abducted. That is the ones that are even known, not the ones that we
have to do something.
That is the ones that are recorded.
Recorded, yeah.
But what I don't understand is the numbers being bandied by security forces. 200 terrorists done this, and yet it keeps on recurring. So are these figures real? We should begin to look at those things.
It reminds me of this Vietnamese USA war we watch on TV, where they keep killing them and they keep coming back. It's as if they don't die. After,
yeah.
And the
Viet Congs.
Yes, the comedy section of the Blueprint newspaper, Aku says, bandit Turji reduces Zamfara community levy from 50 to 30 million naira, and they call it the Turjian power.
What a shame. Yes. In our sovereign Nigeria, where government should hold sway everywhere. Yes. It is not right. We must do all we can to rein it in.
Anyway, I think we had enough discussion on this issue of security last week.
Yes, you did.
On Tuesday and Wednesday. So
it's going to continue. That discussion.
We need to continue.
Because the sore is still festering.
Yeah, but let's look at this poverty, ignorance, boosting organ trafficking in Nigeria.
Yes.
That's another concern.
It is true that poverty or ignorance could boost organ trafficking. But then, what you ask yourself is, what kind of information stream these people have been receiving? It is not only book knowledge that gives you knowledge. In fact, there was this traditional ruler in my community in Iseluku, Odumwebu. He was reputed with being almost as wise as Solomon in the Bible. He said, education change, education sense. Patch education book. Natural knowledge is more strategic and important than academic knowledge. Because the argument people will start making, if they think that it's about book and all that, is that if you don't go to school, you're not going to become somebody.
In life.
No, there were many early traders in my community who didn't go to school at all.
Just that education will
that's not an excuse.
Help you to have a proper application of the wisdom.
Exactly.
So education too is important.
I agree with you. No, education is a necessary additive. It is. But what happens is that poverty could actually make you do some desperate things, and you fail to investigate thoroughly Somebody says, I want to take her to Singapore, where she will become this, she will become that. Because you are in tattered penury, you could actually make a hasty decision. That is what I think.
And that is why there is need for a proper sensitization, program to further educate the people, especially those who, in the bracket of, the communities, illiterates that do not really understand, all these things. Because I read, it wasn't in the papers, one of the kidnappers, that kidnapped a student in Djibouti or in Ogun State, told the parents that, look, if you don't pay the ransom, we're going to sell this, your child to those who are needing, those who want organs, the organs, traffickers and all that.
Yes.
Meanwhile, he had already killed a girl. So, one of the things that these kidnappers do is they kidnap and they remove the organs for,
Who buys the organs? That is a billion-dollar question. Who buys the organs?
So many people buy the organs. So many people are
for one reason or the other.
Fuel, petrol and oil industry. That Nigeria hardly gets up to 3/4 of what you should get and all that. There's always a criminal lurking there. So you must institutionalize.
So you have to be very, very careful.
And quickly, yesterday was a Black Sunday. 51 killed in Niger, Lagos, Tanga, Infernos, 48 get mass burial. And when I saw the video trending on the social media of the accident, it was something else.
And somebody said bad road and all that. Bad road is there, but speeding. Are you supposed to speed on road that is bad? If the road is bad, you practically crawl. Or is it that they feel if they go too slowly, bandits will come out from the bush? It will seem that wherever you look, the man is hiding from one calamity or another. This is not the country we dreamed of.
No.
We have to come back, retrace our steps from the precipice. It is very important we do that. It is very important. Our religious leaders should try to see whether they can appeal to people's conscience. Because what is happening now is simply inhuman. It doesn't make sense anymore. It's not the green, white, green flag we waved in 1960. I was just 2.5 years old or 3. We were so happy about this country and life was good. Toro was money. 1 penny was money and all that. And you beat up a child because they misbehaved outside, and you were not afraid that the parents would take you to court. Not anymore.
No anymore.
That's not the Nigeria we knew.
Even teachers can't discipline students now.
In those days, we eat with just 1 kobo.
Yes.
I remembered when I was in primary school, you just give us 1 kobo, and that does it for the day. And you are satisfied.
Yes. It's really unfortunate.
It really is.
And those were also the days, there's a program we had, Models of Integrity. One of them told me, I'm talking about the days when it didn't matter that Mama Sikiri is a Muslim. No. You went to borrow salt from her. And she came in the evening to the family of the Christian for them to talk long into the night. Those were the days.
And people will give you something and say, let me test it before I give you. I don't want you to be poisoned. This was not the Nigeria we used to know before. Now everybody is afraid.
Well, but in my place, where there's a lot of palm wine, it is traditionally required that before you give people palm wine, you taste it. Yes. It's like you want to give money to somebody traveling. It doesn't matter it's your wife. Tell her to count the money in your presence. It doesn't mean you don't trust her anymore. You're removing possible conflict. It doesn't mean you don't trust your husband. Count the money I gave you. We do it in my village. Count it first before you leave the room.
All right. Okay, before we go, we just, the report just reaching us indicates that the Nigerian and Chinese governments have agreed on new terms to strengthen cooperation on media information and national orientation. Mohammed Idris signed the MOU in Beijing on behalf of Nigeria. The agreement, is driven, the ministry and the Chinese media group is to enhance transfer of technology, personnel training, procurement and operationalization of equipment. I think details of this story will come up in our subsequent bulletin. Just stay with us.
Yes,
now,
it is news alert.
Yes.
Captioning and all that will come later.
Yes, details will come later.
I like that.
You missed the job.
So, thanks, Chooks.
Thank you.
Hope to see you tomorrow again.
Okay, guys. One day at a time.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
We'll take a break now. Good Morning Nigeria continues. Stay with us.
President Bola Tinubu has approved the suspension of import duties and tariffs on rice, maize, and other essential food items for the next 5 months. The president has also approved the suspension of import duties on pharmaceutical raw materials and equipment. This will help bring down the prices of food and drugs across the country. All hands are on deck to ensure that things get better for all Nigerians. This is the renewed hope.
Darling Natural Twists blend with her hair over time.
Yeah, that's perfect.
She's really more beautiful every week. Darling Natural Twists get better every day, just like you.
We're live in the open market for Epic 10X Challenge. My people, today I will show you how the power of new Epic 10X gives your toilet a better cleaning than bleach.
Than bleach?
Yes, so.
Impossible.
Toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Epic is thicker and sticks better,
which gives 10x better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs.
Oh, wow. You can now see that Epic is better than bleach.
NTA Television College Jos, with a pedigree of producing indelible professionals in the media space and an affiliate of the prestigious Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, for the award of Degree in Mass Communication, calls on prospective candidates to leverage on the following courses it offers for 2024-2025 academic session. BSc Mass Communication, those with minimum admissible score of 180 and above who sat for the 2024 JAMB/UTME and direct entry, while 100 to 179 minimum admissible score can apply for the National Innovation Diploma NID in Film and Television Production, Broadcast Journalism and Television Engineering. For more inquiries, visit our website or call 0803 383 4343. Announcer, Registrar.
Audience, are you ready? Families, are you ready? All right. Give me Kenny and give me Olamide. Mention the reason a woman might cut her hair. She wants a new look. Daniel. Okay, so Daniel is my guy's guy, my boyfriend. Hey! Woo! Come on, I'm just God, what? How long have you two been dating? 3 years. So cute. Thank you. Mention a reason why your parents might show up at your child's school.
You know that academic performance?
Huh?
Academic performance.
Today I had a performance.
You got you.
Survey said.
Nigeria means a lot to me.
And Nigeria means peaceful cohesion.
My country.
We continue to pray, and then hopefully we will come to understand that unity of purpose, unity of living together.
Our ethnic beliefs and background and culture is our strength.
Ever since the amalgamation period of 1914 to date, about 109 years ago, the people of Nigeria live very peacefully with one another.
I think diversity helps a lot to enhance robust development in Nigeria.
All over the country, you have so many ethnic groups, over 250. That is enough to tell you that this is a blessed country that, God has kept, together as one indivisible entity.
The race to qualify for the biggest football competition in Africa is on, the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. 48 teams in 12 groups, with only the top 2 teams in each group qualifying for the African Cup of Nations in 2025 in Morocco. Don't miss the action, suspense, and unrivaled coverage on AfroSport TV and its affiliates partners across Nigeria, starting from September 2024 to November 2024. AfroSport, your freedom of sport.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and as a prompt for our conversation on progressive taxation, here's a background report by Oyemi Ajayi.
Tax structure in Nigeria is tailored towards Nigerian governance hierarchy, talking about the federal, state, and local governments. The country operates a decentralized tax system where each level of government is independently responsible for the administration of taxes within its jurisdiction. And this reflects why it generates revenue to fund government expenditure through a pool of taxes from each tier of governments. Progressive taxation means high tax rates for those with high income or more wealth, so that those who earn or have more are taxed at a higher rate. Personal income tax based on graduate scales, where the tax rate goes up as income level rises, is probably the clearest example of progressivity. It is a tax system that is designed to promote social justice by reducing income inequality and redistributing wealth from the rich to the poor. A progressive tax on labor income produces marginal tax rates far in excess of average tax rates. It reduces the tax burden on those who can least afford to pay. It tends to collect more taxes than flat taxes or regressive taxes because the highest percentage is collected from those with the highest amounts of money. Those with the greatest resources fund a larger portion of the services that all citizens and businesses rely on, such as road maintenance and public safety. Critics of the progressive tax system argue that it's a disincentive to success. They also oppose the system as a means of income redistribution, which they believe pushes the wealthy and even the middle class unfairly. In consonant with his promise to remove all barriers impeding business growth in Nigeria, Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu approved the establishment of a presidential committee on fiscal policy and tax reforms. And part of the recommendations from the committee is to propose progressive tax system where there won't be an overburden on the poor or less income earners. The committee's proposal for VAT is to reduce the rates to 0% for food, health, education, and exemption for rent, transportation, and small businesses. It is believed that these are the areas where the average person spends almost all their income, meaning their VAT burden will reduce. The upward rate adjustment is another item to partly offset the reduction in rate and exemption for basic consumptions, ensuring that the masses are protected. Now, will this help in reducing inflation in the country? Our guest in the studio will be answering these major questions soon.
Thank you, Oyemi Ajayi, for that background up there. Joining us now is to discuss on this progressive tax, introduction of progressive tax. It's the Professor Ken, a development economist and economic policy expert. Professor, you are welcome,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you for having me.
All right.
Good morning, Nigerians.
Good morning, sir. Also joining us is Orji Philip Orji, tax analyst, founder Association of Concerned Citizens of Nigeria Revenue and Economic Center, author of the bill seeking for the establishment of the Independent Revenue Inspectorate Agency of Nigeria, RIAN, and also is the founder and national coordinator Association of Concerned Citizens of Nigeria on Revenue and Economy. Orji Philip Orji, you are welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you join us. And also joining us via Zoom from Kano is Professor Kabiru Issa Dandago, FCA, and is a professor of accounting at Ado Bayero University, Kano, BUK, since 2007. Professor of taxation at Prince Abubakar Audu University, Ayimba, Kogi State, since 2011. Federal Commissioner of the Tax Appeal Tribunal, sitting at the Northwest Zone Panel, former Commissioner of Finance, Kano State, June 2015 to October 2017. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, let's stay with Professor Isa Dandago. You are a professor of taxation. I just want us to lay a background on these progressive taxation that the government is introducing. What is your understanding of these progressive taxation, and how does it differ from the current tax system in the country?
Thank you very much for this question. Progressive taxation in Nigeria is normally restricted to personal income tax. Either you are talking about direct assessment or pay as you earn payee. The country has not been using progressive taxation on the other taxes. It is of recent that the government is thinking of using it on the company personal income tax, where the micro, small, and medium firms or companies will be charged maybe 20% of their chargeable income, and then big companies will be charged at the normal rate, 30% of their chargeable income. But over the years, progressive tax is being applied on personal income tax, and the rate now is between 7% to 24%. So I don't know the progressiveness that the committee is trying to introduce now. I have not gotten the detail. Will progressive tax be applied for petroleum profit tax, capital gain tax, and other direct taxes like the education tax, etc.? I think this may not be possible, but then we need to get the detail about how progressive taxation is to be applied on the direct taxes. And then for the indirect taxes, value-added tax, stamp duty, excise duty, import duties, export duties, they are rated being applied by Custom and Nigeria Customs Service to tax product being imported into the country or exported outside the country. So progressive tax system is normally applied to ensure that those at the lower level of income, individuals, either as employees or those that are running their own businesses, are charged less than those at the top, those that have a lot of wealth. That is what we call the high net worth individual. They are expected to be paying more tax as they make more income, and then the lower level income earners to be paying less because they generate less. And that is what could be used in ensuring that the gap between the rich and the poor is closed. And of course, the amount generated is being used to provide social services to which both the rich and the poor will benefit from. And that is how to go about closing the gap between the rich and the poor. So I have not gotten detail about how they will want the tax system in Nigeria to be progressive. Is it that all the indirect and direct taxes will now be having some graduated rate from the lower to the high, or they are just talking about making the progressiveness in the personal income tax to be very effective in Nigeria? Because as we are now, many of us are of the feeling that high net worth individuals are not being correctly assessed for payment of tax. It is not at the lower level that are being somehow harassed to pay tax, and that is why you see a lot of resistance, a lot of non-compliance. Many of the people at the lower level will tell you that since those at the top are not paying tax well, why will the tax authority be pursuing them to pay tax even as they are just struggling for survival? I think that is what I would say for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Dandago, for your, intro into the topic. Let's bring in Professor Ken Ife into the conversation. When I saw the progressive taxes today, and I said, okay, as a topic for today, okay, let me go into research to see how many countries have been able to implement it successfully, with unique features and goals like the UK, India, Russia, and the USA. Some for centuries actually have had progressive tax, and they have their unique features and goals. Now, this progressive tax that we're talking about, what does it mean to the layman? That's the first question. And what does the federal government aim to achieve with this latest progressive tax, and who actually is going to benefit from it?
Good question.
Let's learn from you also.
Good question. Is it the certain things are playing in the minds of the new administration, and one of them is in fact, they are all framed in the terms of reference for the reform committee. The first item is, please review our overall national fiscal policy framework. Obviously, that would include Fiscal Responsibility Act, and then that would also include other areas of fiscal operations. And then the second one is look at the tax system in great detail and see how the tax system can help grow our economy, how it could help to reduce abject poverty. So it's not just the distribution of income, because when you say distribution of income, you could rob Peter to pay Paul. You still haven't dealt with poverty reduction. Okay. And then the third one is, how do we use this to promote economic facilitation, economic growth facilitation, and competitiveness? So you cannot extract, is all a big package that was given to them. And I think they have done the national policy framework, fiscal policy framework, but I haven't seen that. But I know that we will get that detail because they are waiting approval from president. Yes. It's policy. It's got to go to president, not to assembly. So we have to get the details of it, but I'm very close to issues around fiscal law because I train people on that. Then the second one is where they went to town and they did a brilliant job. I have to tell you this. Because they not only raised the floor for the small, there are 42 million small businesses, MSMEs in Nigeria, compared to 90 million overall in Africa. So while Nigeria is producing 48% of the entrepreneurship in Africa, our population is only 18%, our GDP is only 18%. So entrepreneurship is a major latent competitive advantage for Nigeria. So if you want this economy to grow, you have to pay specific attention to this category. So the floor was 25 million before they get into the tax net in terms of VAT and all of that. They have recommended to raise it to 50 million, which is excellent, because it just wants to let them grow so that the economy will grow. The second thing is to reduce the burden, the tax burden on this group. And we also have a history of multiple taxation, which affects our World Bank ease of doing business. And then also affects so many things in our country. Even when you come to trade facilitation, World Bank and WTO tells us that trade facilitation accounts for 10 to 20% of overall trade volume. Our overall trade volume is over $120 billion in and out. So if you look at 15 to 20 billion of that money is lost because of trade facilitation. And who bears that? Is the importer, is the business. It's the business that suffers that money. And then the thing hasn't looked very deeply into that. This process hasn't looked very deeply into that because it also has to look at custom duty that is chargeable to goods coming into the country, what we call ad valorem. Now, some people do predatory pricing, countries. They do predatory pricing. What happens is that they charge very high duty in their country. Products cost much, but then when they have met their their break even, then they now get into the export market, subsidize that product to destroy other people's market. So, but the tax should respond. Our tax will say, well, if this country has subsidized their product, well, we increase our tax. We have to get to that point because this, I haven't seen that. Okay? Because that's at the root of why our companies are dying. Our production is dying because there is predatory pricing, and including to that is dumping of substandard goods. They all go together. So you have to use tax. So there are many things that they have done that are really commendable in the second remit, which is about reducing tax. The number of taxes from 60 to 8, 10, then reducing the number of... So they've done a lot, and I'm sure in the program we will get into the specific details of what they have done. They've streamlined the tax, they made it easy, they excluded those who don't need to. In fact, even looking at the fact that of all the 60 taxes, they say that 95% of the actual revenue that comes to government comes from 6 of them. So why bother people with all the other ones that actually drive people more into poverty? Because I'm sure you may go to ask about inflation and all of that. Yeah. That is the nexus for things like inflation, poor GDP growth, all of that. That is the nexus where they are.
Because Nigerians are saying, oh no, not another tax again, because of the multiple taxations that are out there. Mr. Damola.
Yes, thank you very much, Prof. You've said a lot there, and just like Professor Dago also said over there, this issue of progressive taxation, many of these laymen do not actually understand, because I was discussing with someone yesterday. I said, what do you understand by progressive taxation? And he said, don't mind them, because they are giving us 70% increment in our salary now. They want to collect it back through tax. So there is need for a proper, sensitization on this new tax regime that government is introducing. Let's come to Philip Orji now. You're also a tax analyst. Let's get your view on these progressive taxation. What impacts, how would it impact Nigeria tax revenue? And what are the potential challenges do you think they are likely to face in the implementation?
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, because of the nature of what I do, I don't think they have captured what my product is. What they have is tax reform and fiscal policy in that place. My own is demanding tax restructuring. Because in the United States, 1998, the IRS tax reform and Restructure and Reform Act that created Treasurer Inspector General for Tax Administration. Because that restructure that is not involved, that is even why we are not working very closely with the group, because they call me. The group of Taiwan, the Lego committee, they call me. Not about me. But the reason is this. When you have a country that is talking about reform, raising tax, trying to make so many amendments at all time, because it will cost you to visit all these things almost all over yearly if you don't take time, because you ignore transparency and accountability. What Nigeria needs is tax transparency and accountability, not necessarily going to be removing the poor from the tax. Maybe inequality, yes, is there. But the most important thing is that what we are collecting in Nigeria is widows' mite tax. The rich have a way to navigate and dodge. There's a lot of things you do in tax, you don't be taxed, you will not be charged, because it's not an offense to navigate a way to go. There's a way you go. The experts will teach you what to do. You will pay tax, and there's not a law. You will not be caught by the law. Now, another thing that Nigerians don't know is that we are yet to connect to the international digital method of collecting of tax. So this continual pressure on the domestic collection is still what I don't want to go there, because it won't bring any money. Because in 1919, the United States created a CID of IRS, Because these are the things you'll be doing until you got to know that you are not doing it well. Tax inspector is like telling somebody, a living being, not to breathe. If you don't have tax inspector, you don't talk about survival. 1919, they created CID of IRS. In 1921, after the World War I, they created the GAO. That GAO is Government Accountability Office, because the accounting is very important. But they are all under IRS. In 1940, there about 48 or so, they created Ombudsman of IRS, all under IRS. In 1957, they created 56. They created the Inspection Service, because people are complaining that the CID that carry gun, because these people, the IRS have that CID carry gun. They investigate their workers and investigate the taxpayer. So, but they are not still meeting up. When they create Inspection Service, it was to make sure that what you want to say somebody do, you have information of what he really do. Because if you don't have the information, how do you say the person commit offense? So all these things are going, and they have taxpayers advocate. Can you imagine the magnitude of bringing things, but they are still controlled by the Commissioner of Tax? That is why by 1947, they jailed, it was because of that thing, they jailed David C. William, this man that was jailed at that time because he committed offense, but was IRS commissioner. But people are still saying no, because after jailing him in 1947, the people are complaining that people are not, well, first of all, taxpayers' right. Nobody is talking about it in Nigeria. As far as I'm concerned, taxpayers don't have right. There's something they call tax refund. Nobody's going there. There was no account to even know when you pay and what you're supposed to benefit because you paid your tax. Now, in 1998, they now said, let us have an independent Inspector General of Tax, so that this structure I'm talking about will be divided. Somebody collect the receipt. The tax inspector don't collect money. What they do is let everything that was paid come to somebody's server, and they report to the National Assembly of that country, because that's the only way people will have confidence in the tax system. Because giving somebody a waiver, that somebody, a particular entity, give a waiver, how will you be sure that the person did not use that waiver to import goods and sell? This is the laws we are going through, that if you see the money, you will know that what they are trying to do now will yield nothing. I'm sorry to say that. Yes. What we have in Nigeria we must do is a transparency and accountability. And what is my bill going to produce? Any other country, I live in Singapore, I'm trained there. What I'm trying to do is, let us have reason for taxpayers to believe in the system. People are angry.
Yeah.
I visit people. People are saying that corruption, I don't call it corruption. What we need is the capability of the government to create a remedy, enshrine in the Constitution, to safeguard the citizens against maladministration of the tax collector. Because the real crime is being perpetrated, or maybe the mechanism to do it is from the collector and not the payer. This conversation has been there for 7 years. I'm doing the bill. If the bill come on board now, we'll be trained by the USA TikTok Academy. The Australia was trained in United States. The Ghana was trained in Canada. The United States was trained in UK. You can't do tax collection without an external independent auditors, investigators, so that even if the person collecting is stupid, he should know that somebody have a receipt of what he has. So that, I call it obvious temptation in our system, because if somebody know nobody's coming behind, you'll be funny. And you cannot rule it out. They are not corrupt, fine, but you are giving them obvious temptation to know that they can do anything. If you trust the chairman, what about the operator? What about the directors? What about some other people? And we have record case studies I can give you for the United States, that you see billions of dollars they will destroy backup tips, they will do this and that, close to sometimes $500 billion. And when they created TikTok in 1998, the people were surprised, the MPs were surprised. Before they finished training in UK, coming back, from $900 billion they collected that time, the thing shoot before 8 months. It shoot to 2.14 trillion, which shows that the thing is yet to come to operation. But when they were trying to do inauguration, David C. Williams, who is the Inspector General of Taxation, now said, look, the money use people see that came, before we even come to start work, was the image, it was in the news, it's a joke. He said it was the image of the incoming agency that we started seeing a lot of money coming in before we even start work. And today they are close to $5 trillion. Let me tell you, if they do what I tell them to do, Nigeria will generate over 80 trillion naira.
Per annum.
I'm not joking.
Yes,
because the chunk of the money is in overseas. Yeah. Do you know we don't collect tax overseas? Do you know what we have people who are richer than Dangote that own companies overseas? They pay tax, but our own face share is not given to us because we're not belonging to the OECD, UNDP tax inspector with that. But I won't stop shouting because this is killing people every day, more than any other pandemic. This tax system, unless they bring tax inspector, whatever they think they're doing there, they're wasting their time. I've sent memo to the presidency. I've sent memo to the chairman of Federal Land. I'm talking to them. Even though they don't love my voice sometimes, but they still buy my idea because the Federal Land chairman accepted that there is true that there's something called tax inspector without border. Is it not enough for me to know that they know that I'm saying the truth? And they are trying to create illegal framework now to be able to tax people like a cryptocurrency, which means they have not been there. But they were claiming that Binance commit offense. Like, will somebody commit offense that the law that is not existing? That is why they couldn't do anything to the Binance.
Yes, indeed. That is why President Tinubu, you know, when he came on board, he said that they must close the gap in the taxation system itself. With, you know, he had 4 executive orders. Then he now established the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform, who have finished their work, which is a 1-year tenure, and have submitted, waiting for the president to come look into it before it goes to the National Assembly. You know, they say there will be critical reforms after, you know, the presidencies and it goes to the national. And when are we going to begin to see, you know, it unfold, you know, with this progressive tax now? Is it part of the, you know, fallout of what some of the recommendations that will come from the fiscal policy and taxation itself?
I think it's unfolding. That's why you're asking all these questions.
Yes.
It's unfolding. But from what you said, which is very, very important actually, there are 8 tax systems. You know, I mean, you have the capital gains tax, you have the company's income tax, personal income tax, National Information Technology Development Levy. You also have VAT. You have withholding tax. We have tertiary education, stamp duty, excise tax. It's very, very clear what proportion, what progressive taxation means to income tax and companies tax. It's very, very clear because you graduate those. But it's not so clear for the other forms of tax. But we can say, for example, the principle of progressive tax could apply in customs, because if you remember what I said before, if you're actually going to tax them on the actual value of that goods that is coming in, if they undervalue it, you overvalue it. So you will still get back to that. Then when you come to property tax, I mean, in London, in my house, I know where I live, I pay far more tax on my house than those who live in a lower here somewhere. So the tax is is proportional to is progressive in the sense that those who live in smaller houses and in the lower suburbs, they pay less than those who live in very, very expensive houses relatively when I see my non-domestic tax bill. So that principle applies there. The principle can also apply to capital gains tax, because you may charge a lower percentage for people who the value of their houses, capital gain is less than 2 million or 5 million, but those who their gain is over 100 million may pay more. So that principle can come in there. So there are ways in which this principle of progressive taxation can be applied in all these other 8 different forms of tax. But having got that, then the next question is you wanted to know, what was the second one in your question?
The fallout from the fiscal policy and taxation.
Yeah, that's right. Now, the fallout is, and look, when I went through this, I was very happy. I was very happy because the thing has gone, okay, take for example, exemptions. They say, no, it's not about just giving exemption, no. Be strategic in the exemption. Focus on identify and prioritize sectors, key sectors, where you are going to apply the exemption. that is good, because it's not just anybody comes and say, I'm infant industry, I'm infant industry. In everywhere, in toothpick, in all that, you give them exemption. But now say, okay, our focus is this sector, that sector, agricultural productivity, manufacturing, this, that, you focus. And you go to area where you create more employment. You go to area where you actually energize the economy. If there's anything on power, it energizes the entire economy. The second one is that they also targeted areas like health, social inclusion area, which is health, education. They said, remove that, remove that. Remove that in health, in education, because you are hitting, the burden is heaviest on the users. So do you understand? Because the users are the ones suffering. They are the ones paying all these things. Also. So he says remove them. So there's so many things that they have done that actually will connect to poverty reduction. Removing multidimensional poverty, reducing the burden not just on the businesses but also on the individuals, citizens that are paying that tax. And so there are many that I have seen that would make a huge, huge difference.
Okay. Prof, I just wanted to, still address some of the issues that he raised. He raised a lot of issues, which include the issue of tax officials, that we don't have the adequate or enough tax officials to actually monitor what is going on. In this country, you find out that a lot of people who pay tax in this country are probably mostly people, civil servants, those who work for government, and they deduct their, their taxes. That's easy to collect taxes, But majority of these high-profile individuals, they escape taxes. They hardly pay taxes. That is number one problem. Then again, all the other taxes like VAT and all that you pay, the same people that are paying the easy to collect are still the same people that will fall into it.
Yes.
Then also, he said something which I also agree, that most of these tax officials, they also go about to negotiate with those companies and all that, and teach them how they can dodge taxes. So how do you think that this tax progression or whatever that government is trying to, introduce will be implemented? Because now we're talking about transparency. How will government ensure that additional revenue generated from progressive taxation is effectively utilized and there is transparency?
I think he actually has put the finger on what the issue is.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have an independent inspectorate of taxes, honestly, you are wasting your time. I'm telling you the truth.
Okay.
Because eventually you will go to court and it becomes a matter of evidence. Let me give you an example. Lagos State has a beautiful tax system, computerized, and in fact, they will give you time. They say do self-assessment, and then you do your self-assessment 1 year, 2 years. They now come back and sit down with you to say, okay, let us go through it. And then their system will compare you to another person that does exactly the same business, the same size. And then the system will show that that person is paying 3 times more tax than you. And then before they even finish pointing it out to you, you already started paying penalties, so you're happy, So that is a subjective methodology. You cannot take this man to court on the basis of the fact that somebody that does exactly his turnover, exactly the same business, is paying not 3 times more. He will fight, because when you go to court, you don't have the evidence. The inspector will give you all the evidence. Do you understand? It's a matter of evidence. Second point is penalty, and how effective is the penalty. When you evade tax, it's an offense. And what is the penalty? And how enforceable is the penalty? When there's corruption, it's an offense. Every country in the world have corruption. But the issue is that how do you deal with corrupt individuals when you get them? In America and in Europe, they will shred you like vegetable. That's when you get caught. In China and Japan, don't get caught because when you get caught, they will go and kill themselves and commit suicide. That's why they have the highest rate of suicide. But in Nigeria, they will celebrate you. In fact, when you ask those kidnappers, why are you still inside the bush? They say because they've not made enough money. It's only when they collect more big ransom that they now come out and they'll be celebrated in our society. That's the difference. And then I have this on the Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007, which is the governing tax law. Extremely beautiful law that is written, but where is the penalty? You don't find it. Very little, very little. You know, I tell you, when I was in charge of, I was a British government in 2011, I was the policy advisor, British government DFID trade advisor to Nigeria. So I was going around on trade facilitation. My job was to help Nigeria ascend to trade facilitation, WTO trade facilitation. So I was taking people, 43 agencies to seaport, what do you call it, the border airport for them to see for themselves, including the development partners. And when we went to Seme, we saw about 20 checkpoints. But when we were coming back at night, it doubled to 40. But that wasn't what worried me. What worried me was that some of those lorries were loading 4 times their normal size, which breaks ECOWAS axle regulation. But what is the penalty? The penalty is 200 naira. So when you see the truck coming and then the FRC is waving to them to stop, they'll throw 200 naira through the window. And they continue. And this is a gross violation. But the penalty is nothing. So if you look at the revised, this is what was a bit concerned, because on their first thing on fiscal law review, I still haven't seen, because where they need to pin down is a recommendation, an amendment that is with the Senate now, to amend the law and have stringent penalty on people who offend. And the penalty is 1 million plus 6 months jail, not even all. And if you are an accessory to it, you are still getting the same penalty of 1 million plus 1 year jail. So that is where you should be, because it's the deterrence. The fact that you are going into a hot soup if you do this, and then there's no question of I was directed to do what, directed to go to prison. So you cannot say that somebody senior directed me to steal or to do wrong entry. No, you're going to jail. It's not that. So that is where I think the committee needs to uphold that. And I know me and the chairman was in a speaker's assembly where I made a presentation there that this is really what is the crux, because state-owned enterprises are just not paying enough of their 80% of operational surplus.
So the critical reform measures is needed to ensure that taxation in Nigeria works. Let's bring in Professor Dandago into the conversation. You've been listening to our guest here in the studio trying to explain to us and other Nigerians about this tax and other taxation in Nigeria. And they've been talking about penalties for people who don't pay, yes, who evade taxes, and those who help them evade taxes. Let's have your thoughts on it, and how can this gap in taxation in Nigeria be closed, and how can we do away with multiple taxation that seems to bring down so many businesses in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. Even though I've been up for some time, I just rejoined. I couldn't get the insight raised by my discussant. But then on the issue of a penalty for those evading tax, I think this is a very serious issue. When income, profit, consumption, or capital gain has been assessed, the amount determined as tax belong to the government, and therefore it belongs to the people in the country. It is no longer something belonging to you as a taxpayer. So if you decide to deny government receipt of that amount, it means that you may be seen to be borrowing the money from government without the consent of the government. And so apart from the fact that you must pay that amount, you will be charged interest and penalty on that money, because that money does not belong to you. It belongs to the people, or not just the government, it belongs to the people. and it is needed for providing social amenities for everyone to enjoy, including yourself as a taxpayer. So it's a very serious matter that companies or individuals are having their income or whatever assessed for tax, and they delay payment. And some even deny government that money. So without collecting this money, through the personal income tax or companies income tax or whatever tax, direct or indirect, that may be seen as a criminal offense. And cases like this, when they are brought to tax appeal tribunal, when normally payer to defend himself or herself, or itself if it is a company. And then when it is very clear that they deliberately deny government that money, we go by the provisions of the law and ask them to pay plus interest and penalties. And then people need to understand that government is expected to rely on tax revenue for providing social amenities to the people. We shouldn't be going for too much borrowing. Borrowing there from there, borrowing from too many places, and these people, creditors, are putting across very stringent conditionality that are killing the economy. If all these taxpayers or taxpayers are to be the correct amount at the right time, the government may not need to go borrowing. The government may not need to be begging for aid, grant, and other assistance. We need to use the amount being generated through different forms and type of taxes for developing the economy. That is how to achieve sustainable development. And I think the presidential stringent measures to be taken against tax evaders. Avoidance is allowed, but then it shouldn't be allowed to drill into evasion. And the moment that is noticed, government should wage a war against those that are evading taxes, because they are the people that are somehow slowing down the process of development of the country. Of course, people may be talking about corruption. So corruption is being aided by taxpayers who are supposed to pay the correct tax needed for the development of the economy. Most of this developed economy, they rely on taxation. We call them tax-based economy. But countries like Nigeria that are endowed with natural resources will tend to be emphasizing more on these natural resources than taxation. And then if the tax system is not good enough to generate enough for the development of the economy, even the natural resources will not be useful. It will be squandered because people will just feel that money is for those in power. But tax money is for the people. Everybody's eye will be on it. So I think the issue of penalty against tax evaders is a matter that should be taken very seriously. And enforcement must have to be made the moment unpayable as tax is determined, then anybody or any company that failed to pay, that company should be seen as a saboteur to the economy, somebody that will not want the economy to be developed, and somebody that is using money that does not belong to him or to it if it is a enforcement and issue of penalty, etc., issue that this committee may have to think very seriously about, and then come up with very good recommendations that will be very workable in the best interest of the Nigerian economy.
Professor Dandago, for your contribution there. The issue of, coming out with, a policy that will prevent, this evasion of taxes. And Let's come back to you, Philip Oji, and it's important that we look at this issue of evasion because it's very, very important in this new regime. And what measures do you think would be appropriate to put in place, to prevent tax evasion and ensure compliance among high, income earners and cooperation, in this country? In other clients, it works so well. How come we are finding it difficult that we cannot implement it in this country? What are the challenges?
You're welcome. Look, I am happy that Prof this morning said there should be tax inspector. Whenever that argument comes, you see people being offended that Federal Revenue is there. Are you eyeing them? Are you indicting them? What type of nonsense indictment is that? That you should do the right thing and get the right thing. And you say, I'm accusing them. I don't accuse anybody. Let me tell you. Nigeria copies what other world do, particularly in those days. From 1936, they pushed for our economic freedom through collecting tax and paying the queen royalty. Tax is visited. In anything called country, you must talk about tax.
But taxation was working then.
I'm coming because the white were the people controlling, right? But it was people who wrote memo the way I did now, demanding this thing. Somebody, the owner of the country are these people that we employ them, we vote them into the power. So women riot of 1929, all this is because there was no National Assembly to take your grievances to the place. Comforting government is not correct. What is correct is to take the I call it genuine argument. Today, am I not there for 8 years pushing this bill? Pass first reading in the first, ninth assembly in both chambers. Now pass second reading again in the rep, remaining in the Senate now. And I'm interacting with the speaker. I'm interacting with the Senate president. They are not demons. The only thing is that you have to clear them, tell them what you mean, allow them to evaluate what you say, allow them to investigate it. Let me tell you, Singapore that started this year. I want you to know that this thing I'm telling you is that that's to play a big role. Singapore started in 1959 with the tax incentive. A very good idea, so that to give people job. The idea was to allow the company to flourish, because the welfare of the people, first of all, when they were able to make money, the whole thing will start to roll over. So, but when they are doing it, they are equally conscious to avoid fake applications, and you approve it, which is, it is not yielding the result you intend to get. Why you are losing revenue there? That somebody will use such type of waiver to import chemicals and sell, and it's going on here. Let me go back to, so that I want you to know but I'm insisting on tax inspector, and I will be happy. I will not leave you from here. Really, I'm going with you. Do you know why I'm complaining is that people don't understand what I mean by tax inspector? Let me tell you. Places like Australia, UK, other places, even UK don't need to have a tax inspector somehow, because there's something they call in taxation arm's length transfer pricing. Because we have separate custom and the federal revenue. This is why multiple taxation is ongoing, because the federal revenue will charge you, custom will still charge you, because they are separate. But Her Majesty Revenue and Custom is one person. You hardly have such type of issue. But we are operating the method of United States, which is good, separating them. But if you have these two things and you don't have tax inspector, how will you know that somebody who pays social and something for a particular product shouldn't pay for tax again, pay federal revenue again? Because these people are separate. They will collect, because nobody was telling them where they're supposed to stop and where they're supposed to, understand? Because there was no inspector. The inspector is important. One is that the person paying you should be convinced enough to know that you're not just charging him money. And again, all this adding money, like 10%, I called Taiwo Hedele the other day. It's nonsense, because if you make it 25%, there will be no money. Let me tell you, the 25%, what we call market size in tax will give you more money than 10%. Okay, I know what I'm saying. There is no accountability in Nigeria. Simple. Let's stop all this.
Problem, actually.
We have market size. Do you know that somebody go to latrine and pay tax in Nigeria? A dead body pay tax in Nigeria. The day they are burying the person, whatever thing you are buying, you go to POS and pick money. The baby was born this morning. Before you buy pass for her, because if she's not born, they will not do tax expenses. She paid tax the same day the baby was born. And let me tell you, in a month, transferring money, all this 10,000 you're seeing a day, does that machine that is like a robot, does the robot know that the person is crippled? As far as you bring a card, it collects the charge. And somebody is saying he's going to exempt. It's ambiguous. I have told Taiwo that it will never work. There must be tax inspector so that you'll be able to streamline all this calculation. Even if you charge broad base, everybody pays. Let the pay continue. I want the pay to continue. But if the accountability is there, you will not be able to pay the subsidy they are talking about. If we get up to 80 trillion, what will make you not to pay the subsidy? Forget about whether you're taking the charge. The problem is that whatever they are paying, the money was borrowed. And somebody will say National Assembly should go to the work with keke and pepper. It will not bring any change. Until you have money. People say that the president should be going with people will hire plane to carry him, not to buy. It's not the cause of our problem. We don't have money. And the money is chunk of the money is in overseas. Let me tell you. Nigeria was rated to be 60% of the whole illicit financial flow from Africa. I am an expert. I live in overseas and I'm an importer. I know that some Nigerians are rich as Dangote. And let me tell you that if Elon Musk can pay 13 point something, I will confirm it the other day with me. She said it in television. So he paid 13 point something billion dollars. South Africa collect their fair share. The organ know what I'm saying. If you are not there, you won't collect it.
So how do we correct these anomalies?
Let me tell you now. If you have tax inspector now, you will belong to OECD. OECD tax inspector without border. As I've been shouting for 8 years, I won't stop. I'm 63 years old man. So what will kill my grandchildren is what I'm crying today. Let it not happen because it's coming. It's getting worse. Let me tell you that.
For more.
Yeah?
We should brace up for
more. No,
more.
we are going to, with this particular bill, I'm going to continue because I know people are helping me already. Oga have had me now. Let's have tax inspector because they have passed the bill. It's closed now. To tell you how important the bill is, do you know that Ben Kalu went and collect about 8 other members from different political parties because of this bill? Have you know the implication of going to involve other people because this is not a political party thing? It's not a regional thing. It's a concern. A woman from Benin was part of that people, and I visited their offices. And they say, oh, God, look, we are going to pass this bill. But they are full dragging. I don't know who is doing that to me. Because I'm calling it me now because Nigerians are not even interested. Nobody have ever bought me pure water. Nobody have ever bought food. Only one emir I met. He said, how are you? Who is helping you? About 3 years ago, the emir gave me $500,000. I don't want, look, I'm telling you, I visit about Calabar. I visit people, I visit over 30 kings. They bought this idea because some of them are former police officers. Some of them are army officers. They know what I'm saying. But
how do you carry the members in the National Assembly along with this?
Too much. I visit them in their homes. I visit them in their offices. And let me tell you, nobody have objected the bill, even the Senate president. But the thing is that they said, we are looking at Orasa, and I was laughing. Let me tell you, whoever called tax diversity is lying. Tax is first before you talk about petroleum. Why are we having tax when the Europeans are using granite? All these things are taxes that are paid, and they were using it to move the country forward.
Actually, in other climes, they rely more on taxes, than all these natural resources. But we'll take a break now. Okay. We'll take a break now because of our time. Okay. And when we come back, we want to look at the implication of this tax progression on small and medium, scale businesses in the country. So let's take a break now. We'll be back shortly. Okay.
The federal government of Nigeria warns vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables, and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipments will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
Bye, Mom. He's going to play in this weather. Why did you let him go? He might fall ill. And if he doesn't go out for practice, how will he win more trophies? To protect our family from illness-causing germs during the rainy season, we use Dettol soap every day.
Dettol with germ defense gives you protection. Raining season brings a lot of germs, and Dettol soap's germ defense protects you from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Dettol soap is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association. Be Dettol sure.
Relief is coming. More wages, reduced costs. Nigeria's national minimum wage is now 70,000 naira, and it will be reviewed every 3 years. The federal government will commence immediate implementation, and state governments are being encouraged to follow suit. With the presidential CNG initiative, transport costs are coming down. Are you a car owner or a transporter? Visit www.pci.gov.ng to find out how you can benefit from switching to CNG. This is the renewed hope.
I think Amaka should just move out of the house. Yes.
No. Standing out of the house is not the right thing to do.
Oh, there you go again with your sentimental family stuff.
Baby, if our aim is to stop this affair, it is best achieved under our roof.
You do something terrible, and you'll be acting innocent.
What are you going on about?
Don't ask me that question again. You couldn't even control yourself in the presence of our visitors.
What are you accusing me of, woman?
My son, I don't know how serious you are with my daughter, but there's something that needs to be done urgently before you move any further.
Anything, just anything, just say it. I'm ready to do anything.
There is a spell that needs to be removed.
A spell?
Family forever, the story of our lives.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
You have to move from the point where you protect and defend your religion to a point where you also recognize the rights of the other person, of the other religion, and protect it. So if I am protecting my own territory and my own people and trying to emphasize their rights and protect their rights, I should also be thinking about how to protect the rights of the others.
Both Islam and Christianity recognize and defer to God, and both recognize the temporariness of the life of this world, and that ultimately we all go back to God for the day of reckoning, when everybody will render an account of his life on this temporary abode.
The race to qualify for the biggest football competition in Africa is on. The 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. 48 teams in 12 groups, with only the top 2 teams in each group qualifying for the African Cup of Nations in 2025 in Morocco. Don't miss the action, suspense and unrivaled coverage on AfroSport TV and its affiliates partners across Nigeria, starting from September 2024 to November 2024. AfroSport, your freedom of sport.
If you're just joining us, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we've been talking about the proposed progressive tax, by the federal government, and we all have our guests seated here in the studio. I'm coming to you, Mr. Ken Ife. While he was talking, you wanted to respond to some of the things you wanted to say, and he also said that when the white man came, they sort of consolidated on the tax in Nigeria. But according to history, taxation was working in Nigeria before colonialism. There was an existing system of taxation in Nigeria with the Emirates, with the Benin Kingdom, with the it was existing, and the white man came and built on that. Where did we derail from that concept of taxation that was working before? And what is the determinant between the poor and the rich? Because we've seen how a lot of rich people evade taxation, paying tax, you know, and you don't even know the extent of their wealth. Is there a database to determine it?
It comes back to what he was
Yes.
saying. You know, I lived 43 years in UK. That's where I've spent my life. We have HMRC, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. It's a single entity. Just like if you go to the border, we have border agency. Where in Nigeria, you have 16 of them. NAFDAC, all of them, everybody is a captain there. Okay. Now, so it's only one eye that is looking at everybody. In Nigeria, you have it's a separation of customs and revenue. So even if it's going to be a tall battle to say you must start by collapsing them, you're going to have a bigger fight. But let's have a server that talks to the server of revenue and talks to the server of customs, so that all the information you have is in one place. That is the beginning of enforcement action, because you have evidence, and that's what you can take to court. Now, the other thing is that, based on what he has suggested, which is brilliant, we need legislation to be able to define that independent tax authority. But we have to be sure that it is operating at a federation level, not just at a federal level, because we have states. And so somewhere we have to make sure that, okay, that's fine, that's very important. Then the second thing, of course, is to define the powers of that. If you don't define its power, then it's as good as not having it. Yes. Because some of those powers would include power to punish and to, so that they have a prosecutorial power. Yeah. Very important. Yeah. Because if they collect the evidence and they give it to EFCC, still under police, and then you give it to any other prosecuting authority, your file will disappear, you get problem. But, and we have it in the FRA 2000 amendment, 2007 amendment. We said when the FRC carries out the audit and they see the infraction, they have prosecutorial power to take you straight up, because they have the evidence and they have the power, and then they'll start. And then I know that when we were talking about it in Senate, EFCC said, oh, but we'll deal with it. The chairman of the finance committee said, no, but you could call cases that are 3 years, 4 years. No, let's get this done, because we need the money. Are you with me? Yeah. So that's the level, because they must have prosecutorial power. Yeah. So as soon as he speaks it in his server, and they see this one trying to reconcile what came from HMRC and then what came from revenue and what came from custom, he sees a discrepancy. He's got the evidence. He has the power to charge straight to court. And then the law prescribes the penalties. Yeah. It's done. It's done. It's a done deal. So if you don't have this, then of course there is another level, which is where you now open up, either by treaty or by whatever accession, to the various international bodies like OECD and all of that, so that we can have reciprocity. And then, when our investment that have vaporized away to those constituencies will still give us money. So that will all be defined in the power and the institutional arrangement to enable us to do this.
A lot of money is there.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. Let me come back to you. Okay. The Zoom is still there, Professor Odandogo. You have been listening to the different solutions being preferred by our guest in the studio here, which is the need for us to employ technology for us to use for proper implementation of these tax progression. But let's look at the implication of these on small and medium enterprises in the country. What do you think will be the implication on their businesses?
Thank you very much. Before I go to the issue of MSMEs, I think we may not need to have additional authority on assessment up to the collection of appropriate revenue from taxpayers. I think what we need is strengthening of these tax authorities and ensuring that they work together. There is the need for them to appreciate the need for them to operate in a collaborative mode in discharging their duties. Federal Revenue Service, State Internal Revenue Services. Then you have the Nigerian Customs Service and other authorities that are responsible for collecting from the appropriate individual and organization. So the endowed on them, I think are adequate enough for them to do the right thing. So what we need is for this authority to be strengthened, and then to build their capacity, and then to ensure that honest people are put in place to do the work, assessment and collection of these individual and organization. We should emphasize on the creation of additional authorities for the purpose of making our tax system to be resilient, to be very strong. So I will wish the Presidential Committee to work very hard on ensuring that all the appropriate tax authority work in a collaborative mode. And of course, on their individual basis, they need to be built very strongly. Their capacity need to be built. We ensure honest people are put in place to discharge different responsibilities. So I think if this could be done, you will see evasion reduce greatly, and then you will see effectiveness and timeliness in the course of assessing various taxes and collecting appropriate amounts into the government purse. And then on the use of technology to enhance the tax system, I think this is very, very apparent. We are in a digital age, and then different apps have been developed for use to ensure that taxpayers are being monitored very well, are being captured into the net very strongly, and then they are being assessed for the purpose of collecting appropriate tax from them. So when you look at MSME, there's many experts meeting state internal revenue services proposing to use this app or that app to ensure that they bring all the MSME into the tax net. But personally, I have some sympathy for micro, small, and medium enterprises, particularly the nano enterprises, the micro and small, who are in transportation business, manufacturing business, wholesale and trading, and even services. So these businesses or enterprises will be located in about 16 different sectors of the economy. So personally, I will not be in support of making them to be this. They may, the government may have to consider coming up with some a sort of maybe a tax holiday for them for some number of years for them to start growing, because these businesses, they create a lot of employment. We need them to ensure that our youth get employment, to be on their own, to use their own creativity to contribute towards national development. So if a lot of taxes are put across on their activities and on their income, on their whatever, many of them may get scared. Many of them may not be able to survive the harshness of the economy, particularly at this period of uncertainties. So as we use technologies for capturing taxpayers, emphasis should be more on the high net worth individuals. And these big businesses, particularly maybe multinational business companies that are making huge profit, who may be giving the country revenue that millions of MSME could not give you. But then these SMEs are trying to survive. They are getting something for them to take care of themselves. The government should see that as another dimension of contribution to the economy, rather than allowing them to remain unemployed, doing nothing. The government may even have to intervene. They need some financial interventions, some technical knowledge, city building, grow from micro to small, and this should turn of government on them, not how to capture them into the tax rate, how to maybe harass them with different taxes, and many other things that are securing them, making them to be opposed to government because of the taxes being collected from them. So I support the use of this technology, different apps that are being developed to get to understand where they are. But then when we know where they are, we need to develop data based on them. For example, in Kano here, you may wish to know how many business.
So Dandago, we've gotten your point there, and you're now advising the government to look into the case of the MSMEs so that they can build them further. They can be a great contributing factor to the economy in Nigeria. As we begin to wind down this conversation, let me come back here to the studio. Mr. Philip Oji, in your opinion, what should be the next line of action for the Presidential Committee as a midwife, this progressive tax?
Progressive tax, I'll still go back to my point. They have sound frameworks they are doing, but because of the lack of this restructuring, I am not in tandem with them. They have had me, but they say it's not part of what they gave them the responsibility to do. Creating the agency I'm talking about is even older than what they are doing. Yeah. But that is not an issue. They didn't say no to what I'm saying. But what I'm trying to say here is that I talk about Elon Musk, 13-point-something billion, paid last year alone. Taiwo concurred, and it is true, because I used to mention Taiwo because he's the person handling the chairman. Now, are you now saying that the whole totality of Nigerians that are living in the United States is not paying exact amount? Let us forget, let us leave the richest man, right? But the Nigerian payment in only US can be that. And if he pays it, 70% go to the country. You know why OECD make that treaty? The host country return 30%. The owners of the individual take 70%. Their reason is this: you take our job away and go to China to build, because they may be thinking of getting the infrastructure, maybe electricity, and maybe their workers are cheap. America have most of the companies in the China is from America. But what they were clever to do, the calculation was, if we cannot get the job, let us get the money that our son, our daughter went and built in your place. And it is working.
Just like we should do in Nigeria.
It should be like that. Up to now, it never. It's just, I will still give you some few case studies. Now, do you know Nigeria owners, I was telling this thing, is more than 40 billion. International citizens. Not even multinationals, because we are not there to check tax evasion, profit shifting, base erosion, and the likes of them. And again, my colleague, the person we are talking with, don't know what I'm saying. Because I believe you know about that. But let me tell you, that thing he said there is like I will laugh over it, because do you know that this thing will control security? Because in 9/11, when America was hit, they were bringing, because they was all this trying to show supremacy is always there everywhere in the world. The IRS were bringing people to come to the committee that Bush formed to come, and that time Krita was just created about 2 years old. That case study was that they were there. Sorry, I'm running up.
Yeah, well,
let me tell you that the man Dita man wrote letter to the president and demand that he will be part of that thing, because the requisite background to check anything called tax, to call anything operation, is ended up in one place. Say they wear one cloth, they wear one shoe, they wear one cap, they enter one vehicle, because if you don't check it, that is why Bush have to bring him, and they make him chairman. The person that is the chairman of the committee, they change him and put TikTok as chairman. Because the man, David C. William now tell them that anything that control tax evasion will control treasury financing. So the chunk of money that is there will even make us pay less. We now help these people. The Prof was saying we should help. You cannot help them with borrowed money. We are here to get what will give us that money. When we get the money, all these things will stop.
Okay, when we get the money, all these things will
yes.
stop. Okay, thank you, Mr. Philip. I mean, I know you are so passionate about this, you know, about this tax and getting it right. Let's just because we're winding up now, Prof. What advice will you give to the tax professionals here? What strategies would you, you know, advise them to adopt, you know, in this implementation?
I think, let me begin by saying that if I understand you correctly, yes, that the committee does not think that it is within their remit to implement the unitary tax authority you are talking about, inspectorate, then I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with it?
I don't agree with that.
Okay,
because the overall purpose of all this reform is to maximize government revenue. Yeah. But even better than to optimize it. Okay. Because when you talk about optimizing the revenue, you are trying to look over your shoulder to make sure that those who are at the wrong of the leg, the first wrong, are suffering less, that's the citizens. And those who are next, the businesses, are being empowered, and you are taxing them less. You are being less burden to them. You are freeing them to be able to contribute more to the economy. And then, of course, looking at the top end, those who have gone away with the money or have a lot of it, that they are making their fair contribution. Mm-hmm. So you cannot dismiss a suggestion of an authority that helps us to get the most and say it's not outside. That is the core. That's what you told me.
So what strategies should they adapt now? You know, to adopt now.
Yeah,
in just
they have come up with beautiful strategies. Remember that I started by 3 major terms of reference for them: the fiscal policy review, which they have done. All I say is make sure that you are very strong on implementation and enforcement, because enforcement is everything. Yeah. And part of what you're suggesting is key to enforcement, because you need to have the evidence.
Yes, now.
Then the second one is that they've gone to town with all the issues of multiple taxation and the tax reform, progressive reform, and I like what they're doing. And they have reached over to the poor to be more inclusive. They are reducing poverty. They are showing evidence that more businesses will do more. They've raised the tax threshold to enable them to reinvest their profit, not take it away from them in very hard times. So they've done well. But in the third one, which is about economic expansion, you know, economic growth facilitation, and then also competitiveness, there's a lot of evidence that what they have done can actually aid that third remit. But there's a bit more to be done, because I said we have to look at how custom charges, duties, ad valorem, and that, how it affects trade facilitation and all of that. So there will be a bit more there.
Yes, indeed. And I'm sure since this is a proposed progressive tax, and I'm sure those concerned are watching this program, and if there are any gray areas, I think they will be looking into the conversation we've had today so that they can, make it work. Professor Ken Ife, development economist, economic policy expert, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure having you. Philip Oji, tax analyst, founder, Association of Concerned Citizens of Nigeria, Revenue and Economy. Thank you so much.
I'm personally happy I have somebody today.
Yes. Yes, and we appreciate your passion,
Thank you.
For Nigerians. And Professor Kabiru Isadandago, FCA, he's a professor of accounting at Bayero University, Kano, since 2007. We've run out of time. Thank you so much for your contribution to the conversation. We appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
Well, that's Good Morning Nigeria. Thanks for joining us. I am Ademola Adeoye. Do have a lovely day.
And I'm Juma Yusuf. Join us again tomorrow for another interesting episode of Good Morning Nigeria.